Cartoon Network has been basically dead for this decade, killing off multiple shows people loved, with only one show reaping in massive rewards. Today marks day 4,000 of Teen Titans Go, the show people love to hate. How did this one show build an entire empire off the hate? Well, it has to do with one quote that Cartoon Network president Sam Register said in 2004. But first, I gotta show you what happened before the show even premiered. Imagine you are in charge of creating the next editions of the Teen Titans, but there's a catch. The last time most people saw the Titans was in 2006, where the final season ended on a cliffhanger. You understand that the show has impacted so many people, with its legacy being praised still to this day. The catch? You are not allowed to build from that show at all. You must start new and stay away from that old show as much as possible. That was the challenge that stuck with creators Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic. Speaking of stuck, in 2012, the creators of the show made one joke that stuck with them forever.
And no continuity with the old show. Someone's gonna ask that.
No continuity.
So we've never even seen the old show.
No, I saw a couple episodes.
I'm
It's
kidding.
good. It was a good show.
Combined with the early art of Teen Titans Go, the internet went ablaze hearing that the creators of the new show didn't watch the show that they were planning to reboot. Except that's not true at all. This one phrase said jokingly has passed through the community like a game of broken telephone. In just 1 year, people went from excited of their favorite show coming back to outrage from the credibility of these new creators working on a beloved franchise, to the point where the creators had to come out and address the backlash.
Can I just say for the record, I don't ever want to clarify it in the real world, but we had seen the show before.
I remember that clip.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's like, they've never seen the show before. Because I go, yeah, I've never seen it before, and then he talks over me. I'm just kidding.
One joke led to the start of the war between Teen Titans Go and the internet, and the creators could have buckled to that hate, but decided to employ these 3 simple tactics to farm their hate to their advantage that shows like Velma, South Park, Family Guy, and even the Patrick Star Show did successfully. The first tactic was out of everyone's control, yet it worked so perfectly. Let me tell you a story about Beast Boy. A lot of people would agree that Beast Boy may be the funniest person of the Titans, but his diet within the show is not a laughing matter. Given that he has the ability to turn into animals, he has a lot more empathy towards them that led into him being a vegetarian. Within the first episode of Teen Titans Go, Legendary Sandwich, Raven sends the other Titans to retrieve ingredients for said sandwich, which includes bacon, which is a bit ironic given that Beast Boy earlier in that episode was a pig eating a sandwich. While he doesn't eat meat in this episode, he did appear to be excited to eat the sandwich that contained meat, even pushing to have the first bite.
Dudes, I should get the first bite. I got the worst of it. Look at this.
How you gonna eat with no teeth? You gonna gum the sandwich down?
My thoughts exactly, Cyborg. However, Beast Boy didn't just want to eat meat, he did. Within Laundry Day, he'd be shown eating hot dogs in an eating competition as a pig. Within Colors of Raven, he'd be shown eating burgers and hot dogs at a picnic.
Beast Boy, this hamburger is fantastic!
I know, dude. I know.
But this final example is the most damning. You can make the argument that in Legendary Sandwich, he didn't eat the sandwich. In Laundry Day, it could have been vegan hot dogs. And in Colors of Raven, the burgers and hot dogs were created by magic, thus not killing real animals. In my final example, none of these defenses work. But also, this episode was one of the first episodes to garner a massive amount of hate for a similar reason. The creators weren't allowed to use the original show to build on this show, so they did the next best thing. To explain their loophole and why this last example of Beast Boy eating meat was hated the most, I must speak about the episode that inspired their plan.
Happy Blorthog! Huh?
Come on, Beast Boy, give me that thing!
Dude, I'm in the middle of a game, Cyborg.
This is the episode How Long Is Forever from the original Teen Titans. Starfire is struggling to wrangle her friends together to celebrate their friendship. Although her friends assure her that it is normal for friends to get on each other's nerves, she's still very worried about everyone drifting apart. This becomes more apparent when fighting Warp, this time-traveling villain who absolutely demolishes their efforts to stop him. Starfire decides to ramp things up by tackling him through his time portal, traveling 20 years into the future. In this future, her friends did drift apart, with with all of them having rougher futures because of it. Cyborg's technological limits keep him a prisoner to the tower. Beast Boy became a one-man circus act after realizing that he was not cut out to be a solo superhero. Raven is held hostage by her own delusions to where she doesn't even know what reality is anymore.
It has to go away, just like before. Just like all the others.
Your mind. Without friends, you must have...
You see firsthand how everyone lives an awful future, and how it tears Starfire apart to see that her friends are no longer friends, and how our last memory of them was them not understanding how easy it is to drift apart. We'd learn later in that episode that Robin became Nightwing and calls for the Titans, who barely come back in time to stop Warp from traveling even further into the future, leaving Starfire in this reality where friends are all worse for wear. How Long Is Forever is an incredible episode that deserves all the praise it gets for showing how much the Titans need each other. The creators of this spin-off knew this, and took this serious and emotional concept and threw it into their wacky comedy show. However, they might not have known how sacred this episode is to select fans of the Titans. Seeing how Beast Boy and Cyborg were treated so seriously in the Teen Titans episode, take a look at how seriously they're treated in Teen Titans Go. Within Staring at the Future, Beast Boy and Cyborg would go to an establishment called Zippy's Pizza, where it is visibly shown that Beast Boy is eating pepperoni pizza. Pepperoni is usually from pork, which is meat from a pig, the exact animal Beast Boy has shown to be in quite often when eating meat. It is even worse when in this episode he fights over the last slice of pepperoni pizza for so long that years pass. This inconsistency in Beast Boy's character marked the stance the team took in transitioning Teen Titans to Teen Titans Go, and how little they cared about select details. But let's get back to how they took this idea. Similar to the time-traveling aspect of How Long Is Forever, the Titans in this reality have drifted away. However, it is not treated as a sad thing. In fact, Robin, Starfire, and Raven have better futures, which still include responsibilities. Because these three are happy and don't have time to go to the movies with Cyborg and Beast Boy, the latter decides to ruin their friends' collective happier futures by planning to go back into the past and change it from ever happening. If you were a fan of the original show, to then look at how Starfire from the original show wanted to help her friends stick together because when drifted apart their lives became worse, to then look at this episode and see that Beast Boy and Cyborg want to ruin their friends' happy futures for the sole purpose of dodging responsibility, it makes sense why people dunked on this episode.
What are you guys doing up here anyway? You're not dead, are you?
Nah, just looking for someone to go to the movies with us.
Sorry, balancing all the good and evil throughout the galaxies is a full-time job, and a big response.
Don't you say that word! Don't you say that word!
Not only do they go back to the present day and change things to make sure that that future never happens by sharing the slice of pepperoni pizza, the new future made by sharing the pizza instead of fighting over it is worse for everyone involved, to which Cyborg and Beast Boy are okay with it because it relinquishes them of responsibility. However, this doesn't make sense writing-wise because Beast Boy and Cyborg only went back in time because none of their friends in that future wanted to go to the movies with them. In this new future, they still can't go to the movies with them, but now their lives are worse off. They didn't solve the problem they had, thus you can see why this episode became hated. While taking a concept was viewed as going too far for some people, the creators wanted to go even further, and what they would do next would be viewed as one of their most polarizing, and it would be tested in an episode no one really talks about. You'd imagine an episode about dreams wouldn't gain too much controversy, but it was a small experiment for something greater.
Brace yourself. It's a gift.
Oh man, that guy's cool.
Robin is currently having a dream about kissing Starfire, which uses footage from Teen Titans Trouble in Tokyo. This episode went under the radar for most people, as it was such a small part in the episode, so the backlash for using the original show in such a wacky way was minimal. But what if the creators of the show wanted to go even farther? What if they wanted to use an entire episode of the Teen Titans in the spinoff? If you didn't know any better or watched this on mute, you would not think the following was a Teen Titans Go episode.
The Teen Titans! You guys look awesome!
I know, it's the wind. It really has a dramatic effect on our capes and hair.
Sure does, but what about that dude?
Capes are for magicians, and besides, I went bald at 3 years old.
They literally took an already animated episode of the Teen Titans and made a safe-to-air YouTube poop out of it. This whole episode is just Robin and Cyborg fighting over if a cape is cool or not.
Maybe now you'll consider wearing a cape to prevent these things.
Man, I ain't wearing no cape. These boys Starfire don't wear a cape.
Yes, but they have hair and skirts to blow in the wind!
Yeah, but can they make their head bigger like this?
We can all make our head bigger like this!
This episode was divided between the people who saw this as nothing more than wacky and those who see this as a disgrace to the Teen Titans lore. Interestingly, this episode was noted to not air that much, probably because the network doesn't want to create confusion on who the Teen Titans are now, because they definitely don't look like their original selves. Using the original show in a reboot was tame. It's actually what the creators of the show were teasing with the original show that made people even more upset. What would be the one thing that both fans and haters of the Teen Titans would love to see? See if you can figure it out in this episode called Brain Percentage. The Titans are talking about how Beast Boy barely uses 2% of his brain, let alone 10% as the misconception goes. When Cyborg explains that this was created in the media and not in science, Starfire reacts strongly to this newfound lie.
Would the television book movie shows truly say something untrue?
Of course not!
The creators knew how much people would love to get a 6th and final season of Teen Titans and love to ever so occasionally troll people with it. But it wasn't just the creators. Towards the end of Teen Titans Go movie, titled Teen Titans Go to the Movies, we see a familiar group.
Super!
Is it working?
Almost got it. Fitting.
This is the Teen Titans. Can anyone hear us? We think we found a way back.
With this, Tara Strong, voice actor of Raven, tweeted, "Wow, just so y'all know, at a movie session today, they told us that if the hashtag Teen Titans Go movie kicks all butts, they would do our show at the same time as hashtag season 6. For reals. So go see it, even if you hate us." To which, just like in Brain Percentages, they dangle season 6 of Teen Titans over the heads of fans for the betterment of Go. While we didn't get season 6, we did get a movie that involved the Teen Titans, and it would be the closest we ever get to a continuation of that show so far. While the movie was pretty liked, the team took lots of opportunities to lean into the comparisons, knowing exactly who would come to watch, and it worked. The spin-off Titans are not taken seriously, but Robin wants to be taken seriously. Within Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans, the running joke is that the Go version Titans, excluding Robin, are more impressed with their original counterparts, suggesting that they are pretty much cooler and better in every way.
You don't understand. I can't fight.
I wouldn't say can't. You're just not as good as I am. But then who is?
Them?
The Teen Titans Go Robin would take offense to this, and even later in the movie, as other versions of the Teen Titans are showed, the Go versions would conflate being serious to being better, similar to the criticism of their show. However, it wouldn't be a Teen Titans Go crossover if they didn't poke at the critics.
Oh, cool!
Yeah! You ruined my childhood!
As you look throughout this show so far, they don't care about the lore of the original show. They hang the possibility of a continuation over the heads of fans and critics, and lean into the wackiness so much at a time that people were not used to seeing the Titans this way, that they easily farmed hate by mastering the first of the 3 tactics, taking absolutely nothing seriously about the entire franchise. However, if anyone said that Teen Titans Go works well because they took nothing serious, they'd be dead wrong. There's so many funny but stupid comedic cartoons that didn't survive as long as Teen Titans Go to prove that point. Clearly, the show had more than just not taking anything seriously in its sleeve to become the monster that's still here 11 years later. To explain the second tactic, a quick story about another show's tragedy. This show was loved, getting a 7.3 on IMDb and an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 74% audience score. It was also darker, serious, and a slower paced superhero show called Beware the Batman, which fits perfectly in Cartoon Network's DC Nation programming block. So why don't people speak about Beware the Batman today? Beware the Batman has been reported by several sources who have received little to no effort in supporting. Whereas you couldn't escape an ad for Teen Titans Go, Beware the Batman was pulled from Cartoon Network's schedule 3 months in and later written off as a financial failure. Another example of Cartoon Network using a show as a tax write-off. In the meantime, Teen Titans Go would start airing more and more, and by August of 2014, 6 times a day on weekdays, growing more and more with each year. The silver lining is that Toonami would air the last 7 episodes of Beware the Batman in one night, before the show disappeared to never show up again, until Max came along. This is the first case of Cartoon Network showing favoritism towards Teen Titans Go performance, and it wouldn't be the last. There was a small campaign in early 2015 taking advantage of the polarizing reception of the show and leading into the fact that people don't like it, dubbing it, quote, your new favorite show. Basically implying that you don't have a choice. The show is clearly your favorite.
Teen Titans Go! Your new favorite show.
A subsection of people thought this tagline was offensive, saying things such as, Teen Titans Go is hot garbage. It's a dumpster fire at best, as well as, I agree with you. Teen Titans Go. That show needs to be cancelled. I feel really silly recapping a show clearly trolling but getting the reaction they wanted, but people were calling for the people behind the show to never find work again, as well as, quote, stop putting words into the characters' mouths just to satisfy your own selfish purposes. Now the rest of this story, many people may know, but if you don't know, this was the beginning of the Yellow Wall. I probably make it sound scarier than it was, but we all lived through it. You couldn't escape your new favorite show. It was everywhere. It was everything. To celebrate the 100th episode of Teen Titans Go, Cartoon Network decided to air not just 1 episode of Teen Titans Go, not 2, but
showing every single episode ever. And it all leads up to the 100th episode of Teen Titans Go!
Well, this wasn't the first marathon or their last one, it was one of the major ones to catch controversy. Given that Teen Titans Go was also a DC property around this time in 2015, they would air ads on the CW, the USA Network, specifically around Monday Night Raw, and practically aired 4 to 5 hours a day. Meanwhile, it is reported that this forced then new shows Sonic Boom and Transformers Robots in Disguise to premiere pretty much at the worst time slots, the super early morning slots. This also pushed the DreamWorks Dragon series to Netflix, and Be Cool Scooby-Doo and what was called Wabbit at the time, now called New Looney Tunes, to Boomerang. Simply put, the year of 2015 marked a stronger dominance for Teen Titans Go at the expense of other shows in the network. However, 4 to 5 hours a day was just a start. Teen Titans Go wanted it all, and they got it. Christmas Day marked the start of one of the most infamous schedules of the 2010s. Cartoon Network decided to air 384 showings of Teen Titans Go, taking up 99% of the schedule for the week of Christmas to New Year's Eve. The other 1% of the schedule was 2 new episodes of Steven Universe, Sadie Killer and Kevin Party, which I'm sure were only there because of contracts. Outside of the obvious criticism, Steven Universe is a story-driven show. It would be harder to retain newer fans as the seasons go on, especially if you need prior episodes to understand the context of what's going on in the later episodes. The schedule was made by CN Schedule Archive, and I want to read his reaction at the time for this masterpiece. Quote, I try to find silver linings in every terrible CN schedule, like that one from August. At least they're giving OKKO a lot of trust, but I don't think I can find a silver lining in this. Steven Universe is just aired because it was advertised so, and that they need to air those episodes before Lars of the Stars and Jungle Moon the week after. So here's my attempt at a silver lining for this. You don't need to watch this. At this point, Teen Titans Go was at the top of the mountain. However, they would not just receive backlash from viewers who wanted to see other shows, they would receive backlash for where they put this show. And they messed up twice, badly. The first time is the result of unfortunate timing.
Aw, I love you, my little prunes.
While this episode itself is not controversial, nor did it gain any extra hate from viewers, the episode gets dark. Raven relishes in her time with the other Titans who were turned old by Mad Mod, but they are mortal still, and eventually Beast Boy passes away first, with the others not too long after. Raven would visit Death to retrieve the souls, and you get to see how morbid this episode is. However, before I show you this next clip, you must watch it with the right context. This episode aired as a rerun the evening of November 13th, 2015, the day of the coordinated terrorist attacks in Paris. So some people were offended flipping from the news to Cartoon Network and seeing a song like this.
I'm the soul collector, baby, of death, the Roman. Yeah, last breath. I'm the soul collector, baby, of death. So come on. Woo!
It is a case of unfortunate timing, and it wasn't Teen Titans Go's fault, nor was it Cartoon Network's fault. I don't think the criticism here is warranted, but it was notable, and the episode has aired less since. This next case is less serious and more hilarious in hindsight. Within October 2018, Cartoon Network uploaded a video within their Stop Bullying Speak Up campaign that featured the Beast Boy version of Teen Titans Go.
You can't catch! You can't catch! But finally, someone else said, hey, how would you like it if someone made fun of you? And everyone left the kid alone.
It garnered significant backlash because not only does Beast Boy within Teen Titans Go bully people, particularly Robin on a near episode basis, but the entire show endorses that kind of bullying. I can literally name any episode of the show, but I'll go with them bullying Robin for having baby hands, since Beast Boy, a stand-up individual, would never make fun of someone's physical appearance. Like they've mentioned before, the show doesn't want to teach morals or have nice characters, so using a goofy and silly but bully type character as your representation of a nice kid in your anti-bullying campaign doesn't make any sense. This is why later on, they would prefer using characters from other shows such as Steven Universe. Despite these two major setbacks, their second tactic of being spammed relentlessly by the network is a big part of their rise to dominance. But even with them not taking anything seriously and having network favoritism, that would at best keep them going for a few seasons. What truly set the show apart from any other show in the 2010s, what will have this show spoken about for a long time after it's over, what people who don't even watch the show will know it for, is their third and best tactic. So there the creators were, in the middle of getting all the hate and backlash for the show being nothing like its former show, and it was clear that they were gonna take some shots back. But I don't know if anyone was prepared for the way they did it though. Their third tactic is their best tactic, because they went where few other shows would go. And in this final set of episodes, they came for blood, and it would come in different forms. However, their first shot probably went unnoticed by a lot of people. While this particular episode isn't held in infamy, Masi Manos does contain one of the first shots taken towards critics of the show. It's subtle, but within the scene where the Titans learn about who Masi Manos are, we see a version of YouTube called DC YouTube, with one of the side videos reading as, quotes, Teen Titans No by Childhood Destroyed, which has a thumbnail of a baby crying, a duration of 5 hours and 2 minutes, and -5 views. Obviously, this is a shot at people who link the goofy, silly, incompetent nature of the Titans to their entire childhood being ruined, which is a common complaint with reboots of older shows. I do agree that saying your entire childhood was ruined because of a reboot says more about your childhood than the show. Plus, this was a good episode of Teen Titans Go. However, their shots would not stay limited to subtle things in the background. As you know, one of the biggest criticisms towards the show is that it's not serious, but comes from another show that was liked a lot more and was known for being relatively more serious. Even though Teen Titans had its fair share of silly moments, the pacing was slower, and there was a lot more action than comedy, and the art style looked a lot less cartoony. So the creators of the show got together and wrote an episode that poked at this criticism.
Today, evil will fall to its knees. Today!
He's looking.
Robin would want the respect that the Young Justice team has, but his team responds back with what the team usually responds to critics with. Why are you so serious? We're just trying to have fun. The writers also use the Young Justice team to tell Robin that they bring shame to the rest of the superhero world through how they act. The Titans would decide to go so serious that they end up being wacky still.
Who among you would like to sing a song about pie?
How can I sing when I'm so conflicted? I've been so conflicted and unhappy all this time and never even knew it.
I've never felt more emotionally complex.
We should have gotten serious years ago.
Finally.
When you peel back the criticism of the show being too silly or not as serious as its former show, you have people who love the original Teen Titans show and most likely are upset at the fact that it ended on a cliffhanger. When people heard that the show is coming back, settling the last season of the original show would be high on fans' list, because no fan enjoys their show ending the way that Teen Titans did. So people looking for the vibe of that show in Teen Titans Go when they heard it was returning is valid. The episode has them actually win against the Hive the next time that they battle, and now that they're great at crime fighting, they separate because they're too serious about everything.
Could this be the end of the Teen Titans? I thought being serious would bring us closer, but it's only driven us apart.
While not aging the best, it does serve as the first major shot thrown against the critics of the show, and would not be their last or their worst. In fact, one of their next shots is still considered one of the worst episodes from the show. Let me show you why.
You don't understand. It's Slade.
Slade.
That's right, Slade.
There's several reasons that this episode was torn apart, so buckle up. For one, the episode's title implies that Slade, a major villain that showed up within the original Teen Titans show, will be a major part of this episode in the spin-off. However, this episode was a bait and switch. Slade was never going to show up. They show a graphic implying that the action that people came for happens off-screen purposefully.
Well, it's too bad people will never see any of it.
No, that's a good thing, bro. It was just too epic.
The real episode is about the fact that Beast Boy and Cyborg loved clowns as a kid, but through growing up, no longer like clowns because of their stupid kitty jokes, with Raven and Robin acting as the straight men to interject commentary on liking clowns.
Wait a minute. This clown is horrible.
Yeah, why is he doing lame kitty stuff?
I told you, you're too old for clowns.
Coming back to this episode, I am conflicted. I do believe that older people place heavy expectations on kid shows today to make them feel the way they did when they were kids, which is a near impossible task. I also believe that when people say they want kid shows to be good, it's a vague term. It can mean anything. It's near impossible to satisfy, as people tend to bring up shows that they grew up with as examples of the good times. However, I also believe this analogy doesn't work for several reasons. For one, Beast Boy and Cyborg end up extremifying the clown to make it darker, edgier, so that people can enjoy it, with Raven and Robin expressing that.
Guys, this is wrong. Okay, it's a little funny, but still wrong. You've taken something that's meant to be for kids and made it totally inappropriate, just so you could still enjoy something you should have outgrown.
Their argument is what appears to be lame kiddie jokes are made with children's entertainment in mind, so making it edgier to appeal to teens and adults is losing focus on why the clown exists in the first place. This show is on a network that was also premiering Regular Show, Adventure Time, and The Amazing World of Gumball, shows that were for kids, that teens and adults loved, that had potentially inappropriate humor and edgier aesthetics. This doesn't even bring up Steven Universe, Infinity Train, The Looney Tunes Show, or Chowder, shows that did appeal to teens and adults while still being a kid show, that didn't need to extremify their show to satisfy other audiences. The difference between all of those shows and Teen Titans Go is that Teen Titans Go purposefully went the route of being as immature and ridiculous as possible. They aimed for the show to be stupid but funny.
But somebody wrote the review of that shows where it was stupid but funny. To me, that is right what we're going for. Like, that is so stupid.
With all due respect, if you aim for the bottom of the barrel, you don't get to be put next to the top. However, I am glad the creators of the show own this aspect, and while they were cooking up responses for criticisms, they were ready to take it to the next level. In fact, they would place a special character that would be the resident hater of Teen Titans Go.
Look upon your previous incarnation.
That looks like us, but better.
These Teen Titans were about character development, drama, and heart.
I used to be so much cooler.
At the time, an episode like this was considered one of the biggest shots thrown back at the critics of that year, and it all came through this man, Control Freak, in one of his most notable episodes of this show, The Fourth Wall. Control Freak was the stand-in for critics who would continue to compare the two shows, thinking that Teen Titans Go is garbage for its lowbrow humor. The reason it's called The Fourth Wall is because the Titans are revealed to be aware that they are cartoon characters in the show, speaking directly to the audience.
People are watching us without our permission? Ew, what a bunch of creeps.
Creeps!
The creeps!
You fools be creepy!
If they don't get their act together, Control Freak is going to reboot them. Years later, I still find this episode bizarre. Basically, the entire premise is appealing to people who don't like the show, who are adults, who knew about the prior show, who critiqued the show, and those people wouldn't have changed their opinion on the show anyway.
Oh, I'm so sorry you didn't get any precious golden statues or industry accolades, but we don't care!
Didn't you just learn that you were a show and now you're talking about the industry? Plus, this episode is just like Let's Get Serious, because again, their response is just to take the criticisms and fix them to such a wacky, ridiculous degree.
Now that is some whimsy.
Feels like a student film, yo!
Oh yes, a true labor of the love.
You clearly have to care about responding to them, especially when in this episode, you stress how the limited budget explains why they don't push the animation farther than they typically do. When you are the most popular show on Cartoon Network, that says more about the network than a response to the critics. Teen Titans Go would go on to release a mini-series called Island Adventures, and while the special event is largely normal episodes, the last episode in the mini-series probably caught more attention than it should have. Within this episode, Robin and the rest of the Titans learned that the island was fake the entire time. It was actually a ploy for Control Freak to change the Titans' environment in an attempt to make them more entertaining.
I was starting to get bored watching you in your normal environment. Living room, kitchen, living room, kitchen! It's so repetitive and predictable.
Hey, sometimes we goes to the roof.
And the lawn.
Control Freak serves as the stand-in again for the critic of the show, and like usual, his criticisms are just that the show is garbage and awful because it isn't like what he used to have. The Titans are taken aback, especially because in the beginning of this episode, they longed for something more exciting to do than be stranded on an island, such as a fight with every villain out there. Surprisingly, this is exactly what they receive.
Greatest villains!
Why would people who despise us devote so much of the time and energy to watching us?
Girl, have you been on the internet?
Brutal stuff!
Why are people so mean?
I don't deserve this!
Well, keep in mind the opinions of people on the internet aren't accurate indicators of popularity or success.
So this is another episode to explain that the hate only looks overwhelming, but when you zoom out, they're just fine. And they end up fighting every villain anyway. It's a nothing episode, but only worthy of note because of how they portray their critics, calling them losers who are afraid of change with nothing better to do. The creators of the show were getting somewhere using a character like Control Freak as a stand-in for the critic. However, it is when they combined taking shots at critics, spamming the network, and taking nothing seriously with one of the easiest ways to gain attention in animation that created some of the most notable yet oddly repetitive shots taken at critics through Teen Titans Go episodes. And that's what they're crossovers. While Truth, Justice, and What isn't a particularly infamous episode as far as I know, it is the second crossover episode that runs with the narrative that all they are is silly and wacky, you shouldn't take them seriously, and it's another episode written directly by the creators of the show. Basically, the Titans, except Robin, don't care about truth or justice, or really being a superhero. As the show hammers that into your head, they care about pizza, and that's the only reason they joined the Titans in the first place. When Robin bans pizza because they get crazy addicted to it, they decide to mutate their bodies to join that other pizza-loving crime-fighting team.
If you will excuse us, Robin, we have the new friends to eat the pizza with.
Yes, they meet up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of all teams, which yes are owned by Paramount, which ironically is their second time turning up in this show, as they show up for a brief moment within the episode Más y Menos. They get into a war over who has ownership over pizza, and the Titans get their butts kicked, because the show wants you to understand that they're not great at their job.
Guess there's only room for one goofy pizza-eating random humor superhero team, huh?
We may be goofy with goofy random humor, but you're forgetting one thing. We run around silly and everything!
One person was seriously outraged at this. Quote, "Are you kidding me? The Cartoon Network stole the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from their show? When the Cartoon Network," why is he saying the Cartoon Network? "When the Cartoon Network steals the TMNT Turtles without permission, that is illegal. Maybe one day the police find out and put the people in jail. Same with these episodes, but different characters." Obviously, it is a reference, in this case a parody, which is protected by fair use, ironically the law that allows for this wiki site to exist. However, as we go down this rabbit hole and reach the bottom, they will get more and more bitter, and the episode quality would get worse and worse. What happens when you take one reboot that people hated and collab with another reboot that people hated? Ironically, when coming together, it was fun. It was a wacky adventure.
That's what we're trying to tell you!
And you've come here for our help because you are tiny, helpless babies.
No! We're superheroes!
While not a new point, TTG versus PPG use a smart tactic. Make the other show, in this case the Powerpuff Girls 2016, look as good as possible even at your own show's expense, because your fans are already coming to watch you anyway. While the Powerpuff Girls did not receive the same treatment of being liked more and more over time, we can chalk this up to another episode of the show that feeds off of the hate that it gets.
Well, we couldn't have done it without you.
She has admitted it!
I knew it.
Looks like the Teen Titans win after all! Boom!
Wow, really?
No wonder Mojo came here. This place is the worst.
The creators of the show would assume for this to work a second time, with another reboot that people hated out of the gate. However, lightning did not strike twice. Unlike their crossovers with the Powerpuff Girls or Teen Titans, this one specifically follows the typical internet reaction to a reboot.
It's time for the premiere of the reboot, Thundercats Roar!
Yeah! How the charming!
In a sense, they are shining a mirror to select versions of critics of their own show, posing the Titans as the reactor to Roar, but analogous to the Teen Titans, Starfire is the voice of reason in the same way the creators of the spin-off would like for the critics of this show to see with their own version of their own show. I covered this episode in detail in my Why is Teen Titans Go So Bitter After 7 Years video, and I still ask that question here.
Why's their mouth shaped like beans?
It's like they were drawn by a bunch of vegans.
They took one of the greatest action cartoons of all time and turned it into a comedy?
They spend all of this time praising the Thundercats in this version, and little did they know, people actually didn't like Roar, and it ended after a season. Personally, I thought the hate was overblown, but I acknowledge that I'm not particularly connected to the OG show or even the 2011 version. However, unlike Roar, Powerpuff Girls, or even the Ben 10 reboot, what those three shows don't have in common with Teen Titans Go is their treatment by the network.
Yo, Warner Brothers, I don't know why you like poop so much. Bring back the old Thundercats. Peace.
My turn! Your vegan animators don't know how to make cartoons, but they sure know how to make poop!
Before we get to the worst critic call-out episodes, let's discuss the most direct call-out Teen Titans Go has ever done. The 200th episode is incredibly meta, to the point where there's no 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th wall to break. The entire premise is that there is no 200th episode so far, so the Titans go into the real world to get the real staff to write a real 200th episode. While it is full of commentary about the animation process, it does take a lot of shots at critics. Just look at how the team responds to Starfire as she gives a very bland idea.
I don't know, Star. That don't sound like it's gonna have enough farts.
Beastie's right. If we want to tell a good story, we're gonna need more flatulence.
True. That's how Michael and Aaron do it on our show.
If this video shows you anything, the team really wants you to know that they're not just fart jokes, but at the same time, that they stand by their fart jokes. How brave. When their episode doesn't go over well with the rest of the real staff, they realize how hard it is to make a Teen Titans Go episode.
Can't believe you've made 199 good to mediocre ones.
It was a lot of work for one terrible one.
We're exhausted. Plus, now we have to hear from haters on the internet.
This show ruined my childhood.
Maybe now you can understand where we're coming from.
If this video and this episode also show you anything, it is that the creators of this spinoff care immensely that a subsection of people who've heard of the show dislike the show with great passion. While it is somewhat wholesome to see the creators' family in this episode, given that they've given a lot of their time and life up to work on this show, I imagine an alternate reality where the haters were never acknowledged, and what fun adventures are had there instead. The song towards the end of the special also takes shots at the critics.
But don't let it go. Some people just say don't know. They didn't, but we did. And made that money like pyramid.
Again, someone who clearly cares about the fact that they have haters. In fact, they cared so much that when approached by a Make-A-Wish child, they decided to rope him in on the action.
We have a fan? Are you sure? I thought everyone considered us an abomination.
They do. Everybody hates us.
Everyone except Wally Walls right here.
Wally T, while voiced by Tara Strong now, the character is based on a real-life child named William Walter Thompson, as a Make-A-Wish contribution that they used to create a critic call-out episode about. The entire episode is about how no one likes them except for this kid, and how even though the whole world thinks their show sucks, this kid doesn't, and that's why they keep pushing forward. However, who had the argument that kids didn't like Teen Titans Go?
Tell me, Walter, do you like the Teen Titans or the Teen Titans? As I thought.
Makes sense.
I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, animation-wise, there's really no comparison.
Well, I don't care as long as you don't consider us garbage. You don't consider us garbage, right?
Like with other episodes like The Fourth Wall and the 200th episode, it just seems so silly that if you're so under budgeted, why would you spend time speaking to and poking at people who don't like or don't watch the show? More importantly, if you have to hide behind one fan of the show to make your point, it's probably not that great of a point to make. Raven and Starfire also spend a considerable amount of this episode hardcore flirting with him.
And being this close to him is making us even stronger. Look how strong he's making me now!
I wish I was kidding. The rest of this episode isn't that much better, and I wish I can get behind this episode, because it is wholesome to dedicate an episode to a fan in this way, but I wish they decided to do a standard Teen Titans Go adventure, rather than one where the entire premise is that we have to be our wacky selves in front of the haters to please these Make-A-Wish kids. If you truly believe that, why not just do that? Now, this last episode is the most bitter the show has ever gotten so far. It uses all of the tactics we've mentioned before, not caring about lore, not taking anything seriously, responding to critics, using Control Freak as a character, and crossing over with another franchise that people like better. Welcome to Cartoon Feud! And I've been waiting to tear into this. Not only is Cartoon Feud yet another episode that speaks out about the criticism that the show has, but this time they drag Scooby-Doo into the mix, but not without Control Freak guiding us along the way.
Well, I'm glad you're happy, because when I try watching my favorite network, all I see is garbage. There's garbage here, and garbage over here. There's garbage everywhere.
There are older people out there who do want to see classic cartoons, which you provided on Max. However, we both know that the criticisms that actually had merit was that there were new shows that had preferable stories that weren't given that treatment on the schedule at all. Unless you want to say people didn't care about Mao Mao, Infinity Train, Seek and Seek, Elliot from Earth, The Fungies, Wacky Races, Aquaman King of Atlantis, Mega Man Fully Charged, Power Players, Apple and Onion, Victor and Valentino, Thundercats Roar, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, Summer Camp Island, DC Superhero Girls, or Scooby-Doo, and guess who?
I guess the network is just giving the people what they want.
And they want us! Yeah!
For one, the network can be wrong. The network also didn't want to pay its writers' residuals on streaming services. The network also kept your budgets low, as you stated multiple times in the show. Secondly, can you point to the people who didn't want to see those 16 shows? Or is it that the network simply just min-maxed their own schedule, so if a cartoon didn't pick up an enormous amount of potential out of the gate, it was assumed to never pick up steam? Even though we have proof that the network didn't understand that these shows later on went on to gain an audience, which is now going to be harder to track because all of the streaming services keep their analytics private. And also, Cartoon Network barely has anything to gain steam today besides Teen Titans Go, which is ruining their market share in this demographic.
You keep taking up all the time slots.
If those classic cartoons can't stand the competition, then they don't deserve to be on television.
Oh, I'm sure the network is doing amazingly right now. Tons of fresh properties that kids enjoy today. The rest of this episode is a crude recreation of Family Feud, but the theme is why the Teen Titans are so bad and why Scooby-Doo is so better.
Why are the Teen Titans an abomination?
Gee, I've just met them, but if I had to guess, they could be friendlier?
Belligerent jerks! The number 2 answer!
There is the novelty of seeing these two teams crossing over, but this isn't any different than The Fourth Wall, TTG versus PPG. It's literally just the Teen Titans getting dunked on for most of the show, but winning in the end anyway. The reason I would say this is the most bitter is because you can do any story in the universe with these characters. You are such a popular franchise that you're given the okay to bring on other franchises, and it seems like the only story you want to tell with them is they like you guys better than us, and they're probably right, but we don't want to change. You clearly care that people don't like you. No human being would entertain this over this many seasons.
Why is the Scooby Gang so much more entertaining and funny and all around better than you?
Is it because they get along like a real team?
Yeah, you guys are horrible at that. Is teamwork on the board?
So over these last 11 years, they've employed so many tricks to stay relevant. However, what if I told you, even with this show taking nothing seriously, getting network favoritism, and making a ton of critic call-out episodes, that we are still missing the final piece of this puzzle? Even with those 3 tactics, we have to come full circle with the boss, Sam Register. Teen Titans was criticized for its art style being wacky compared to the serious shows of its time in 2004, and this is what he said at that time. Justice League is awesome, and Samurai Jack is awesome, and we buy a lot of anime shows that are great, but those shows really are directed more towards the 9 to 14 age group, and the 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds were not gelling with the Justice League and some of the more fanboy shows. The main mission was making a good superhero show for kids. Now if the fanboys happen to like Teen Titans also, that's great, but that was not our mission. Just like with the show we hold near and dear today, the exact same mission is tailored towards the kids of today. This is an ongoing cycle. It'll repeat forever, as each generation will think of their version of these properties to be the best. What Sam Register didn't know is that 20 years later, Cartoon Network would be failing their mission of making great shows for kids, and yours truly saw this happen before its implosion. So check out this video here to see how Cartoon Network imploded in the 2020s.